So this is a training that I did with my teachers, and I went over the components of the bridge. So I first started with the YAG. So we talked about the date to start planning and the date that you bridge. So I'll go ahead and play that part.
At your year at a glance, because this is going to tell you when you are going to bridge, right? And you open up your, if you want to pass these out, I have a copy of your year at a glance for everybody. And this tells you, okay, the bridge. So you know that you bridge in math. So first grade, this is the week that you're going to bridge. You're going to bridge math. So we bridge in math, science, and I&I, okay?
So then I talk about that. I'll fast
This
forward.
is the first thing. And then, so now I'm going to start modeling a bridge. And then we'll go over all the pieces of where I got my information, where I got the words, and all of that, okay? So in there, you have this. And I want you to follow this as I do, because this is what I'm going to use. It's the bridge checklist, okay? And I have it right here. Usually when I bridge, I put it here. So it reminds me like, okay, did I put my blue bracelet on? Yes, I have my blue bracelet on because I am bridging from English to Spanish. If I were to be bridging Spanish to English, I would start with my green bracelet. So when you do math, you teach math in what language? Spanish. So all of your pictorial anchor chart is going to be in Spanish. For science and I&I, everything is taught in what? English. So I'm going to start with my blue bracelet. And I have bracelets for you guys. Okay. Okay.
So just keep in mind, teachers, that when you bridge science, you start with a blue bracelet because you're going from English to Spanish. When you're bridging in math, you would start with a green bracelet and then you would put on your blue bracelet because in math you're going from Spanish to English. Okay? So right here, my lesson is the science lesson. So I started with a blue bracelet.
So you're going to be my student, and I'm going to be your teacher for today. So hello, student.
Good morning.
This Luna. Okay, so you know, boys and girls, we've been learning about matter and mass, and these are the words that we've been learning. So now that we're done with that, we're going to bridge. We're going to bring the English and the Spanish together, and we're going to do our bridge today. Okay, boys and girls? So what I am going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to pass them around because I want to review, okay, what you know, because we've been learning all of this. Okay, so I'm going to pass these out to some of my friends. Okay, and can you tell me who has the card that goes with the amount of material in an object? The amount of material. Yes, remember, boys and girls, we've been talking about mass. And the TPR we've been using is mass. Can everybody do this? Because remember, we've been talking about mass. Okay, the amount of material.
So what I'm doing here is I am reviewing with the students, okay? So this part is you're going to review what you've taught in English and you're going to use the TPRI. It doesn't have to be like the American Sign Language. It doesn't have to be the proper gesture or sign language movement. You could make your own, okay? So in this case, I made up my own, and every time I would say mass, every time you say mass during your unit when you're teaching, make sure that you use mass and the TPRI at the same time so that the kids are learning the gesture that goes with that word. Okay?
An object takes, and here's the picture, remember? So it's mass, okay? Who has this hard that the definition of anything that has mass and takes up space. Space, that's everything. And what do we call that? Matter. Everybody do this. Remember, matter. What's mass? Mass. So here we go. So who has volume but no shape? Remember? Liquid. So liquid. Remember, we're drinking, so it's liquid. Liquid. Who has a shape and a volume? It has shape and volume. Shape, a solid, everybody. Solid. Can we make the movement? Solid. Solid. Very good. So here we go. And who has this one? Has its own shape, does not have its own shape or volume. Who has that? What is that? Gas. Can we make the gas? Okay. So we went over the words and we used our gestures. Now, boys and girls, that we've reviewed this.
Okay, so now we've reviewed, and I only used 5 words. I used mass, matter, liquid, solid, and gas because those were the words that they were learning during that unit that were the most important academic words. And the pictures, I got the pictures from the curriculum planner that they provided. So I use the words, the picture, and the gestures. So what's really important is that you pre-plan. What words am I going to use? What pictures am I going to use? And then you also have to think about what is the contrastive analysis that I'm going to use, because it has to be one of the words that are up there. And so as you see, when I do the contrastive analysis, it's one of the words that are up there because I noticed, let's just say I noticed that a lot of kids were making a mistake when they were writing the word liquid. Okay, let's say that they were writing it with a K, which most of the time that's what happens. So later you're going to see my contrastive analysis, but it has to be one of the words that are on your pictorial anchor chart.
We're going to go ahead and talk about the sentence stem, okay? An example of a liquid is, can somebody tell me? Water. Very good. Water. So everybody say, an example of a liquid is water. Everybody repeat.
An example of a liquid is water.
Very good. Can somebody else give me an example? But now instead of liquid, we are going to do solid. Solid. An example of a solid is, can somebody tell me an example of? Apple. Very good. So we're going to say, remember, everybody, an example of a solid is an apple. Very good. Okay. Next, gas. Who could give me an example of gas? Anyone?
Steam.
Steam. Very good. Steam. So an example of gas is steam. Everybody, an example of gas is steam. You guys are so smart. So we are done reviewing our vocabulary words for matter, okay? Now I'm going to switch over, boys and girls, and we're going to bridge, okay? We are going to now, use my green, because remember, green is for what? Spanish. Very good. Okay.
So now I'm switching over to Spanish. So I have my green bracelet on, and we are going to practice the terms in the new language. So we are going to practice, and they're going to translate the English words into Spanish. And I try to make this again interactive, where I write the words in Spanish and then I pass them out. So you're going to see the example of what I'm talking about.
Here we go. So, ahora vamos a traducir las palabras que tenemos en azul, ¿ok? ¿Quién me puede decir cómo se dice más en español? Yo les voy a dar aquí estas cartas y ustedes, si tienen la palabra, levanten la mano y quiero que vengan. Ay, I don't know. Quiero que vengan y lo pongan en mi pizarrón. I don't know. Okay, ready? So, ¿quién tiene la palabra más en español? Ven aquí, sí. ¿Y qué dice? Masa. Y lo vamos a poner aquí con, ¿dónde está mi tape? Ah, aquí está mi. Oh, ya tiene. Oh, yes, masa. Entonces, vamos a decir un ejemplo de masa es que
Go ahead and just...
masa o ocupa espacio. ¿Y cómo vamos a hacer materia con nuestras manos? Matter. Matter. I mean, materia. Thank you, materia. Ok, entonces tenemos masa, tenemos materia. Ok, ahora, ¿quién tiene la palabra liquid? ¿Quién tiene la palabra liquid? Again, you got two. Okay. Liquid. Muy bien. Y eso es el volumen. Oh, no, tiene el sticky. Well, I have tape. Y líquido tiene volumen, pero no tiene forma, ¿ok? Líquido, líquido, líquido. Ok, ¿quién tiene la palabra solid en sí? ¿Cómo se dice? Sólido. Sólido. Ajá. Ay, y lo vamos a pegar. Thank you. Sólido. Todos digan sólido. Sólido. ¿Ok? Y sólido tiene forma y también volumen. ¿Ok? Ahora, ¿quién tiene gas? ¡Woohoo! Gas. Y gas. Oh. Ok. ¿Y cómo se dice gas con nuestras manos? Gas. Gas. No tiene forma o volumen, ¿ok? Entonces, ahora vamos a decir un ejemplo de líquido. ¿Alguien me puede dar un ejemplo de líquido?
Jugo.
Jugo, todos. Un ejemplo de líquido es jugo. ¿Alguien me puede dar un ejemplo en español de algo que es sólido? Por favor. Un ejemplo de sólido es una roca. Muy bien. Ustedes son muy inteligentes, han aprendido mucho. Ok, un ejemplo de gas es, ¿qué es? ¿Alguien?
Vapor.
¿Un qué? Vapor, sí, muy bien. Entonces, ya hicimos.
So in this part, we practice the term in the new language, and we also read the sentence stem in Spanish, and they had to give me an example. So pretty much what we did in the English, we're doing it in Spanish when we bridge. So now I'm going to go ahead and talk about the contrastive analysis, which is something that you have to pre-plan. Remember I mentioned you have to have that word up there so that you could refer to it during your contrastive analysis. And the example that I'm going to use is the QU, how it's similar in English and in Spanish. So it's how they are similar. So your contrastive analysis could be how they're different, if it lends to that, or how Spanish and English are similar. And so this one, it was how they are similar.
Nuestra conexión, aprendimos las palabras en inglés y aprendimos las palabras en español, ¿ok? Ahora lo que vamos a hacer, niños, es vamos a hacer qué es lo que tienen en común inglés y español. Entonces yo me he fijado cuando ustedes escriben que muchos se confunden con la Q, U y la K, ¿ok? Entonces vi que muchos escribieron liquid con una K, ¿ok? Cuando estábamos haciendo el trabajo, eso me fijé en muchos de sus papeles que les tengo que enseñar que la Q y la U hacen el sonido K en inglés. ¿Ok? Entonces, ahora.
So this is very important. When you are thinking about your contrastive analysis, think of the mistakes that you see that your students are making. When you're walking around and they're writing, make a note like, okay, my students are making this error. Most of them are making this mistake. So I'm going to keep that in mind. So when I do my contrastive analysis, I'm going to try to make sure that I have a word on my pictorial anchor chart that kind of has that same spelling pattern, or it could be a phonology, which is the sound, a morpheme, which is part of the word, pragmatics, or the syntax. So those are the 4 things that you could look for as you're walking around thinking, what is my contrastive analysis going to be based on what your students need?
Ahora voy a hablar en inglés y en español, porque esto es el contrastive analysis, donde vamos a aprender sobre el inglés y el español. ¿Ok? So, boys and girls, liquid, en español, líquido, liquid, líquido. En inglés, la Q y la U siempre van juntas y hacen el sonido K. ¿Ok? Liquid. Can you say K? ¿Ok? En español también líquido, la Q y la U siempre van juntas y tienen el mismo sonido K. Líquido, todos. Ok, ahora les voy a dar a ustedes. Can you pass these out? Take one. Les voy a dar a ustedes papeles. Quiero que.
So I passed out some index cards or sticky notes in green and in blue, and they're supposed to write a word in English that has a QU and a word in Spanish that has a QU, and then they're going to come to the chart and they're going to tell me their word, and then they're going to stick it with the English or with the Spanish side. So I'm passing those out, so I'm just going to fast forward. And I also had them talk to their partner about the words that they chose. So let me show you.
Azul, y quiero que ustedes piensen en palabras
so let's see.
That have the Q word in English, and I wrote this word in Spanish. Esta palabra. Yo
So
escribí.
Right here.
Les voy a dar un minuto, ¿ok? Y luego quiero que hablen con sus compañeros y que digan, yo escribí esta palabra. Yo escribí esta en inglés. Yo escribí esta en español. Or you could say, I wrote this word in English and I wrote this word in Spanish. When you are done, I want you to share A, B, A, B, A, B, and then you could share with me. Oh, what word?
So during this time, you could group your kids like A-B partners so they could work together to come up with words in English and Spanish and give them a sentence frame. In English, I wrote this word. In Spanish, I wrote this word. Or inglés, escribí esta palabra. Oh, so this is giving them, again, time for them to talk, okay, and share their words.
Where did you write?
So, fast forward.
Q-U, Q-U-I, Q-U.
So then the teachers are going to come up and put the words on.
Puse quinto, quinceañera, queso y quería.
Wow, good job. Yeah, high achiever. Okay, Miss Perla.
English queen.
In English,
So then they all came up and they put the words that they wrote in English and they wrote in Spanish. So I'll go ahead and fast forward through that. And making it interactive is a lot of fun. The kids like getting up and talking and sharing their work. So that's something that I suggest that you do so that the students can get up and it's more engaging for them. Okay, so now we're towards the end. Hit play.
QU or K. So I'm gonna leave this up, okay? Entonces voy a dejar esto en el salón durante todo el año y cuando ustedes encuentran una palabra en el libro o a lo mejor en la casa están leyendo algo, ven una palabra en una parte, pueden venir y con un lápiz pueden agregarle más palabras en inglés y más en español.
So this part of the component of the bridge is the extension. So I'm going to leave this up, this chart, I'm going to leave it in the classroom and the kids could write QU words throughout the year if they find it in a book or maybe they see a word that is spelled with QU. They could come and they could write it with a pencil and they really like adding to it. They'll say, Miss Luna, I found a word. And so then they're writing it in with the pencil. And like I said, you leave it up there and they could refer to it throughout the year. So that's a great extension. If you notice that the kids are making errors on that contrastive analysis, leave it up. So this is one that the kids do. The Q and the U is mostly spelled with a K, so I know this is something that I'll leave up. So if your contrastive analysis is one that you think that you should leave it up for them to work on throughout the year, and they could add to it, then leave it up for them. Okay, and
Gracias. And that's the bridge.
And so then that's the bridge. After that, I went and I showed them where I found the keywords that I used and the pictures because it's all there in the UBD in the curriculum planner under science. So it's not something that you have to find. It's all provided for us. So the key is to pre-plan. Know what words are going to be on my pictorial anchor chart, what's my contrastive analysis going to be, what's my sentence stem going to be. I use a very basic sentence stem, but as a year goes on or goes by, you could make that sentence stem a little bit more advanced depending on your student's English, right? How they're acquiring that second language. So like I mentioned before, the key is to pre-plan. And if you look at your year at a glance, you could look at when you're going to start the unit and when you're going to bridge. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I would love to go and model this for your class. Thank you.